All right, it's on and you're all set.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. So today is going to be our second Watson Analytics session, and here is the agenda for tonight. I'll show you how to import data from Twitter, and I'm going to show you what analysis you can do with the Twitter data. We will discuss dashboards and infographics. We will create a storybook, and I'll show you how to use it. And I'll show you the analytics exchange side, and I show you how to share files with your teammates, since your last assignment is going to be the team project. Then this is a bonus part, but you have to stay all the way through the end, and you have to pay undivided attention. And I'm also going to show you some useful resources. All right, so some reminders, right? So remember, there is no recycle bin. If you delete anything, it will be gone forever. You're not going to use your forward and back button on a browser, but you're going to use the menu instead. So now today we're going to load data from Twitter. So I'm going to share my screen shortly, but while we're looking at the slide, we're going to click on new data, right? Then you're going to make sure that the import tab is active, and you're going to select Twitter. And let me go ahead and start sharing the screen actually. It will make more sense when I actually do it than if we go in through the deck of slides. And I hit my screen. Alright, you should be able to see my screen right now. So here, remember, you've got your 3Ds, data discover display, and we're going to go through the whole process. However, instead of the data file from your desktop, we're going to read data from Twitter today. So here it is. I'm going to click on new data, but before we do that, you want to make sure that you're in a personal folder, right? Because you're not going to save files in the root of shared area, right? You want to load data to your personal area. So let me click on new data. Now for today I'm going to select Twitter, and I'm going to type my search criteria, and I can do up to 10 hashtags, and each hashtag has to start with a hash sign. And now today I'm gonna do about the goldfish. I type my criteria here. I can do up to 10, and if I type more than one, I have an option. I could make my search result to include all hashtags that I enter here, or it could include any. But right now I just put one. So what you need to do, I scroll down here, take a look at it. By default, it's going to name my data set as goldfish, because it's trying to match whatever the hashtag you entered, but you can change it, editable. By default, it's going back 1 week. So it's going to look at tweets starting from today through the 7th. You can change this date range, but before we do that, let's click on Show Estimate. This shows us an approximate number of tweets during the specified time interval, and I want to increase the date range because I want to work with more than 67 tweets. Now we're gonna do Show Estimate again. There we go, that's good enough. And right now I'm going to click on Import. So do you remember what happened when you imported data? Here the process is the same. You see that little globe spinning, and it's processing. While it's processing, it's trying to identify the variables and the relationships among the variables. Now here, and you will get this page, this resource is going to be on the slides. This is a structure of the Twitter data. It does not matter what a hashtag you enter, this information will still be there, these columns. So this is the text of the actual tweet itself. Here this field means if the tweet was a response to someone else's post, the author name, then there is some information about the author, such as a number of tweets and the number of friends, etc. And here is about the author location, such as time zone, how the tweet was posted, etc. Take a look at this here. This is important. You have country, state, and city. So Watson Analytics will build a hierarchy. It will look at state within the country, city within the state. And I'll show you map visualization. Here is more information about the author. On sentiment, it's basically the tweet tone. Is it positive, negative, or neutral, or it's ambivalent? And so on, right? Here the hashtags that are in the message, and this column is gonna list the hashtags that match your search criteria, and so on. So here you have the date and time when the message was posted. So you might be thinking, I can do the time series analysis, right? I can analyze the number of posts over time, something like that. So this is done. Now remember, you have the data quality score, and this is your dataset name. If you click here, you have almost same properties, almost same. You can go to refine, and you can do almost the same. You can apply almost the same filters, right? You may decide to exclude, include the column, or you may filter out the data, or you may add the calculated columns the same way you have been doing up to this date, right? So let's go ahead. Well, first of all, what you could do is you could preview your data, how your data looks like, right? And you can see that we have tweets in several languages. We have English, Japanese, etc. Right? And so basically right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start doing the visualizations, because see, that's a workflow. We collected the data, now we have to build our models and visualizations, and then we have to present our findings, right? So let's close this out, and we are going to the landing page, and now I'm going to click on my dataset tile. Here, Watson Analytics will try to identify what I might be interested in. Oh, I clicked too quickly. I clicked on something too quickly, so let's go back. Visualizations. Oops. I clicked on it too quickly, so let's go back. Look, to go back, we're not going to hit the back button. Instead, we're going to use the menu, and we're going to click on the data set, right? This is how we go back. We're not going to use browser back button. Forget that it exists. What we will look at right now is we're going to look at the map. I want to look at the number of tweets, perhaps, by country. Well, it's given me author followers count, but we'll change it. Let's just go ahead and click. So here, Watson Analytics will build a map, and somehow, well, internally it stores the set of countries, the set of states, the set of cities. It's stored internally in the repository. So that's how it recognizes those are the locations. Now here, this is doing a followers count, but I can always change what I want to do. I can do the tweets count, or I can just do the friends count, and so on, right? Let's see, tweet. Okay, so this one, right now it's showing me the number of tweets that I have per country. And the nice thing about the hierarchy is that I can click on the countries that I want, and it should allow me to drill down. So I can click on it and drill down by state. Or alternatively, take a look. If I click here, I have a list of countries, right? and if I scroll down, and if I click on the United States, see this? If I expand it, you will see a list of states. That's what hierarchy is, right? That's what hierarchy is. Right? So now I can select that I only want United States, and I can filter my data this way. I can check, uncheck what I want to see, what I don't want to see. But let's done, and let's do undo. Now let's go ahead, and I'm trying to click on United States. Oh, but now what happened was, it's because I unchecked. So you have to reset. You have to reset. See here, you can select the countries that you want to see, and you can unselect the countries that you don't want to see. So in general, when I click on the country, it should give me an option to drill down. Oh, here we go. Right click, and you see this? You can go down. And when you go down, you will see the breakdown by the state. See this? So here is our breakdown by the state. And the color code indicates the number of tweets. The darker the code, the more tweets you have, right? There we go. So some of you ask me why part of the visualization is grayed out. It happens when you select a certain point. The rest of the map gets grayed out, but when it happens, do what I just did. You just click out on some empty space in visualization, and it will work again. So here I see the counts by state, right? What I also could do is I could add additional criteria. I want to show perhaps, let's see, right now we are just showing the number of tweets, but I could see perhaps the author favorites count. So I want the bubble size to be the author favorites count, and I want to use another field, perhaps let's do retweet count for the color code, right? So this is multivariable. I have one variable is location, another one is looking at the tweet count, then I have the bubble size, it's looking at the favorite count, right? And then I've got the retweet count, right? So here it is, this is the color code. And here it's showing me the darker it is, the larger is an average retweet count. This is an average, right? Okay, so now what I could do is I could click on any of my states. So this is the Massachusetts, for instance. And now, well, if I wanted to, I could drill down further, but in this case, the data does not have, there are no cities in this case. There is no way to drill down. So let's pick another state, California. Here, she's still not. Well, it depends on the data. Depending on the data, you might be able to drill down by the city, right? Depending on the data. But if you look at it here, okay, I don't see it right now, but there used to be a warning here, and it said that if you have data in less than 80 location or less than 80% location, it won't be able to build them up for you. Alright, so if we drill up, you'll see the message what I'm talking about. But now see that I click on a state, and oh yeah, let's pick Texas. See this? I can click on to drill down, and it's going to break down the data by cities, right? So those are the cities in Texas. But see this exclamation? Let's see the warning. See, it says we cannot show the map, and when you click on more info, it will explain that a map could not be created because you have less than 80% of the location match. There is an internal repository of locations that it's trying to match against. So now let's save this. I'm going to click here and I'm going to say rename. Let's say this Texas, right? So this is, I hope I spell right. Well, anyway, so this is a one state, and now let's save this workbook. Here I'm naming the tab, right? And here I click here to save the workbook, and I'm going to save it in my personal area. And let's say goldfish discovery, right? I'm going to hit save again. I'm saving. Now let's build some additional models. Let's do this. And perhaps you might be interested in what drives sentiment. It's right here. Let's just pick this. Alright. See, now you can toggle between one driver and two drivers. So basically, when it's done computing, it will list the drivers and their predictive strengths. And right now, if the list is too long, you can check and uncheck what you want to see. There we go. So in this case, for this specific search criteria, you can actually see a lot of drivers, but sometimes depending on what criteria you enter, you might see just a few. All right. So now let's name this as sentiment drivers. And I misspelled it. I'm bad at spelling, but what's good is that there is a spell check here. All right. So sentiment drivers, and now let's save the workbook as well. And what you could also do is you could click on any related visualization if you want to, or you could just click on a plus sign and select something else. So now we can do, perhaps, let's see something. Let's try to do relationship. And usually, if I enter relationship, oops, it did not give us anything. So suppose that I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I can click on ask a question, right? And now I can just say predict, or I can do the aggregate data, or I can do, here it is, understand the relationship. And what I want to look at is I want to look at the network graph, right? Oh, I could actually do this. Suppose that I typed something and what I'm looking for, it just does not give me, right? I don't see what I'm looking for. I'll click show next. Oh, well, I cannot find it. So what I could do is I could do custom visualization. I could click here on the network, right? And basically, the network is going to show us the relationship. So from, I want to pick something like sentiment. Let's find the sentiment. Oops. Here it is. I want to pick the sentiment in the from, and then I want to pick something like well, let's pick sentiment negative signals. Let's just do that. So now what's gonna happen is I forgot to do the line width. So the line width should be the number of tweets. Okay? It should be the number of tweets. So this is what's happening right now. The green circle represents the sentiment, right? And the blue one, the blue circle, is a hashtag, right? Negative sentiment indicator. And if you see the line, it means that you have a tweet with the negative sentiment that contains these terms. Right? And the width of the line indicates the strength of the relationship. So the more tweets you have, that have negative that have a negative sentiment and that contain this term, the thicker is the line. Okay? And what you could do here, you could hover over the point to see the value, ambivalent. And those are just the term. I picked the negative sentiment indicator, but for some reason they are matched up in ambivalent. So here this is unknown, this is a missing value, right? So now what I could also do is perhaps I want to see how this compares by gender. So I can do this. This is called a multiplier. I'm creating a separate visualization, separate copy of the visualization per gender, right? I can do that. So this is called multiplier. And what I could also do is I could filter certain values. Like for instance, I don't want to see unknown. So to do that, I just click on the arrow and I'm going to uncheck. There we go, right? So this is basically what you use the multiplier for. And let's just save this visualization as sentiment, and I'm gonna call it sentiment term. Alright, let's go ahead and save this workbook. And now we can also do tables. I'm just showing you different examples of visualizations, and some of what I'm showing you was not in a class that you took in the beginning. When you start using the program, you took a class, and what I'm showing you right now, it's not in there. So let's go ahead and do a table. And here, what you could do is you could pick any variable that you want to use for your columns. And in my case, perhaps I'm going to do I can pick the country for my columns, for my rows rather, see this? So here, I've got the list of countries, and now aggregated by. So now I'm going to produce the counts of something. Perhaps the count of, well, I'm not going to do tweets. I'm going to do something else. Just for the purpose of this demonstration, let's do author favorite count. I just want to do that. So what's happening? The numbers are too big. Does it really make sense? Well, of course it does not. It's probably doing the sum, right? It's doing the count, right? Oh, it's doing the average. Excellent. That's what I want. If it's not doing what, so basically right now what it's doing is that it's trying to give me the average number of favorites per author, right? That's what it's doing. But what if I wanted to do the total? Then I would have to find this field in here, author favorites count, and now then I would have to click here, right? I would have to go to properties, and in here you may change it. Default aggregation is average, but if I wanted to see instead the total, I could just select the count. Or if I wanted to see the maximum, I could select the maximum, right? There we go. So this is something that you could change. This is something that you could change, adjust. If you adjust it in the data tray here, right, it will apply only to this workbook. But if you want to make a change applicable to all visualizations that you create from this data, you would need to make a change in a refine interface of the data set. So that's the difference. If you make change here, it will apply only to this workbook, right? So let's go ahead and minimize this. So now let me save this, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to name it as favorite count. So here we go. This is our, let me save this. So for right now, I have got 4 visualizations, and I can start building my first dashboard. I could do that. Or let's add more visualizations actually. We can just go ahead and click on anything. So remember that when I'm looking at the visualization here, Watson Analytics is going to try to figure out what else I might be interested in, and it will try to give me, here is a list of related visualizations, right? So for instance, I might be interested in the number of tweets by gender, and it's giving me right now the bubble chart. I could go back to visualization and I can change it to bar chart, for instance, right? So now let's close this out. And what I could also do is I could change it further just by going to the format, and I could change if I want to see the title or if I don't want to see the title. And here I can turn on and off different components of the visualization. And here I've got the variations, and it will make sense if I do something else here. Let me see. So here right now, it's just doing the counts, and it's doing it by gender. What I could also do is I could add another variable. I could add another variable for the colors. Oops. So right now it's coloring by gender, right? Oops. Actually, wait a minute. See this? What I'm doing? I could click on and off, right? So now I'm looking only at one gender, for instance, female, and I can filter it just by excluding, right? So this is a filter, and let me go undo. There we go. So, and if I wanted to, I could always change my color. I could change my background, and so on. So let's name it as favorite by gender. So I have 3 visualizations, and another one, let's do the time series. I want to do the number of plots over time, right? So to do that, you could pick this. See this? This is a trend. We want to look at the trend analysis on your. So here, it's actually breaking it down for you by the tweet type. And here, it's showing me the year of post, but I'm probably not interested in the year because we only have data for 2017. So I probably want to go down the hierarchy, right? I probably want to look at the months. So let's drill down here. See this? This is what I did. I drilled down. You can do it either by clicking on the map, or you can also do it here. See here, I'm going to uncheck 2017, and instead I want to look at the September, October, November. So this is my plot, and it's showing me the number of here it's the number of times the post was shared, and here is the number of actual posts, right? What I could also do is I could change how it's colored. I could color it by the sentiment. right? So here, if I click on back, it's gonna give me the list of fields, and I can just type sentiment. I can type the sentiment, and it's gonna do this. So right now, I have a separate plot for sentiment, separate count plot per sentiment. And if I go to the formatting, I believe you can even change it to the area. See this? You do it here. This is the area. You can change this plot to the area. Right? So this basically is showing me here is the count, number of tweets, right? And it's breaking down by color. Each color code represents the sentiment value, and I drill down by months. If I wanted to, I could drill down further by dates. Like, for example, I could go in November and drill down by the dates in November. It goes up to 14th because we cannot look at the future post, right? So this is one way to drill down. Another way, just to click on a point. You could also click on a point and then you get an up and down arrows. Yeah. See this? You have up and down arrows. Alright, so let's go ahead and we're going to go back up. Oops. So I want to make sure that my month is selected, and I'm going to do it this way. And let's go ahead and let's name this as fourth overtime. Now, some of you pointed out that you have half of the plot grayed out. It's because you have to click out. You have to find a location outside the plot and click out. And that will, see this, I clicked out and it fixed the issue. So now let me go ahead and click save. And now it's time to present our findings. Okay, so now I'm back at the landing page. I'm going to click on display. There are several types of displays that we'll go over today. So new display. We're going to start with the dashboard first. And let me say goldfish. I'm gonna call it goldfish dashboard. So remember, the dashboard can have multiple tabs, right? So right now I pick the layout that I want for the first tab, and I like 2x2. So now I have several options here. I can create a new discovery, or I can add an existing discovery, and then I can also, if I want to, I can add widgets such as images, links to images and links to videos, and so on. So now I'm going to personal area, and this is my discovery that I just created. This is a workbook. Before I can add the visualizations, I need to click on the arrow to expand the list. Remember, this is a separate tab in the discovery workbook. So what I'll do right now, I'll drag and drop, but watch. I want my cursor to be on top of the arrow. So that way, I don't need to play around with the layout further. It does it for me. So now, see this? There we go. Then I want to take this one here, and I want to take another one. So when you're doing it for your assignment, you'll probably want to play around with different layouts and with colors. So that's I'm leaving that part for you as a homework. Oops. Anyway, so see that I've got 3 visualizations. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and I just added the 4th one. There we go. And let's rename this as, well, I'm going to name it as page 1, but you want to have descriptive names. And the reason is because later you're going to be creating a storybook. And whatever page, whatever name you put in here, that's how it will show in your storybook. And I'll show you how to make a storybook today. So let's save this first. And I want to save it always in the personal area first. I want to save it in the personal area first. Now let's go ahead and add another tab. And I would like to do one by one right now. And I'm going to put my map in here. Right? And I'm gonna call it as, let's call it map, rename, and I call it map. But secretly, this is interactive. I can even use it as if I would have used it when we were in a discovery workbook, and I'll show you. So here it is, right? Alright, I save it again. Remember, if you see this little asterisk here, it means that the latest change has not been saved. The nice part about the dashboard is that you may apply a filter to the set of visualizations or visualizations that are on the same page, on the same tab. You may apply the filter to the whole workbook on the other hand, right? It will apply to both tabs in this case. You may also apply a filter only to the visualization. So to do that, you select the visualization and you click here to bring it to the focus mode. And when the visualization is in the focus mode, then you may even modify the formatting. If it's a decision tree, you can view analysis, you can update the visualization, you can zoom in, zoom out, and etc. Now, to exit the focus mode, you click on this here. Okay? Always remember to save it. Now, another reminder, do you remember that the dashboards have a view mode and an edit mode? So if you see those glasses here, it means you're currently in the edit mode. And if you see a pencil, it means you're in a view mode. Now, this is relatively new. You can click here. Clicking here should close this area here. Yeah. So that way you have more room to look at your visualizations. But if you want to open the filters area again, you can click again. So this is a new functionality in case you may not have seen it. So I created one visualization right now, right? Now I'm going to create another one, but I'm not going to do the dashboard. I'm going to do the infographic. And the main difference is that infographics has only one page. You cannot break the visualizations in multiple tabs. So let's go ahead and let's go back here, and I'm gonna click on new display, and this time I will select infographic, and I'm going to call it as goldfish infographic, and I'm gonna hit create. So now what I'll do, I usually like to pick this layout here. It depends on how many visualizations you want per page, but please keep in mind that the more visualizations you put, the longer the page will take to load, right? And here I can apply filters also, but it will apply to all visualizations. I cannot perhaps apply to the first two only. If I want to apply visualization to the first two, I would have to do it individually, right? So here you can add the discovery, you can add the visualization, or you can add the new one. You can add it from your personal area or from anything that you have access to in a shared folder. So that's one reason I asked you not to save anything in the root of the shared folder, because if you do, it will be visible here. But see, for me, I see all of this because I'm an administrator. So I can see all work in the shared folder. You will see only your session and the sample data sets. So now I'm going to my personal area and I'm going to find this discoveries that I just did. And what else I'll do is, let's see something that I have not used. I believe I have not used drivers. Well, let's put it like this. When I do that, it adds the discovery for me, right? Let's try something different, something I have not tried before. We can do the new discovery. But keep in mind that when you create the discovery workbook, that workbook is reusable in your visualizations, right? But whatever you create here on the fly, I believe you may not be able to reuse it in other visualizations. I believe it's just here. So I click on new discovery right now. Oh, and what it did was, it's showing me the list of data sets that I have access, and I can just pick goldfish, or just save as a goldfish, and to save some time, let's just go ahead and pick whatever it's giving us. Let's just pick, and it's gonna add it here. So this is a discovery that I created on the fly. It will not be available. It's more likely it will not be available in the discovery tab. So here, what it's doing is that it's showing me the counts, right? The number of the author listed count, the number of times the author is listed, and it's going by gender, right? So if I don't like it, I can always change. To change the variable, I will just click here. You click on the arrow, and then you select the variables that you want to see. Like for instance, I want favorites instead, right? It will do that for me. And then I can do, instead of language, I can pick something else. Well, I don't want to pick city in this case because it's gonna be cluttered, right? Because there are too many values. I would have to filter it. I would have to filter it to focus on specific set of cities. But let's find the sentiment. And since we have a long list of fields, you could just go ahead and type your field name, right? Sentiment. You type, I misspelled. In general, when you type the sentiment, it should be able to find the field. Sometimes it takes a while, but anyhow, it should find the field, and then you can just go ahead and change it. This is how you would change it, right? So anyway, the point is that if Watson Analytics gave you the variable that you're not interested to look at, you can change the variable here, or you can also click it here and select another variable. So there are two places where you can change the variable, right? For instance, I want to look at the author name instead. It's gonna update by name, but it's a little bit cluttered. So I have an option to just pick a subset of names or look at something else. But let's just keep it this way for right now. And I just minimize it. There we go. And I can keep on adding, but I'm going to leave these guys for you as a homework, so to speak. You'll explore it at your leisure. But for right now, let's just go ahead and save this. I'll save it because I wanted to show you how to do the storybook. But to do the storybook, you have to have some displays you have to have some dashboards and infographics. So now we'll save this in the personal area. Alright, okay, now it's saved. When you see it, when the asterisk disappeared, it means that you're good to go. It means that it's saved. To return to the landing page, I can just click here. And now I'm still in display, and I'm gonna hit new display. And from here, I'm going to do the export storybook, and I'm going to hit create. Oops, I did not name it, but not a problem. I can always rename it. But here, I'm gonna enter the title, and I'm gonna say goldfish. And I can add my brief description if I wanted to, right? Now, what else I could do is I could click here, and I could go ahead if I want to. I can change my picture. So I have a picture of the goldfish here, right? So I'll just change my picture as a background. Sometimes you may need to play around with the image sizes. I did not play around with the image size, but let's just assume you see a nice goldfish in there. I scroll down, so here is where you need to do some careful planning, because when I play the storybook, right, this tile, whatever I see here, is going to be the first page that I see. So think of the storybook like a book. I open it on a page 1, and I keep on going forward, right? So whatever you see here is going to be your first page. Here is a list of displays that aren't accessible to me. So this is another reason you want to not save the work into the root of the shared area, because it's gonna get cluttered and it will be hard for you to find which work is yours. And your classmates might ended up changing your work, right? So now I have to find the display that we just did, and I believe I called it the goldfish. And also notice here it shows you the directory where the file is located, which is good news. But I'm interested in a personal. I saved it in a personal area, right? For some reason. Oh, here it is. Here everything is personal. See this? I have goldfish dashboard. I'm going to drag it here. So now I have my first tile. And what I could do, I could click here, and I can change my thumbnail to anything I want to, right? Now I'm gonna drag the infographic here, like this, and let's see, because I thought I did more personal. Okay, so we're good, right? Yeah, we have 2 right now. But how many you can add? Well, I'm not even sure what the limit is at the moment, but for sure, I was able to add 6. I was able to add 6 without an issue. I have not tried to do more than 6. But what else you could do is you could add, this is called the annotation. Annotation is a short note about the visualization, so you can click here, and it will take you. Notice that, what is this? I have 2 tabs. Those are exactly the tabs of the dashboard that I created earlier today. And here I can just type in my explanation. I can just type in, so let's just do this. Well, when you're doing it for your assignment, you probably want to put something more descriptive. And I'm just gonna hit add explanation, right? So now I'm going to click OK. Let's click OK and let's save the storybook. Alright. Well, sometimes we need to be a little bit patient because, yeah. Alright, so let's click on save. So basically keep in mind that when I'm doing the demo, I'm also using the network for the presentation. So this takes the bandwidth, so that's one reason it could be a little bit slower, but the speed is very good. Alright, so we were in the edit mode. Let's click on the view mode. Let me show you what an end user is going to do with this. This is a Storybook homepage, and those are called the expert tab findings. This is a dashboard and infographic that I edit. They are called tab findings. At the bottom over here, it's showing you how many data sets were used to build this storybook. In this case, I use just one, but there is no limit. You can use more than one. And here, the number of tab findings, I have two in this case. 1, 2, right? Now, if I click here, I can see my data set. And if I wanted to, I could click on the replace. Then I could rerun my data for the different time period, right? If I wanted to, I could click continue, and then I could select the different date range perhaps, right? So just keep in mind this is an option. And then I would just go, I could refresh using previous selection, or I can just go in and select the different criteria, pick different date range perhaps, but let me hit cancel. I'm not gonna do it. Here, if you click on I, it's gonna show you the information about your data, including the date when it was collected. And here it's just showing you which expert tab findings are using this dataset, because remember, you can have more than one dataset, and in fact every single dashboard that you create could be using visualizations for more than one dataset, right? So now let's close this out, and I'm going to click here. This is what your customer is going to do, and they're going to navigate through your findings. Remember? Do you remember this? So this was the first tile. This is my first page that I see. And I have 4 visualizations. The more visualizations I have, the longer this page will take to load, right? So now, see, this map is going to be my second tab. And when I click on this arrow, I'm going to my second tab finding, right? Just by clicking on the arrow, this is the second tab finding. So suppose that I went through this and it loaded, I looked through everything that was presented to me, but I don't quite see what I'm looking for. I have an option, and I'll show you that. I can go back to the home page, and I have an option to build my own question based on data that was used to build the storybook. I can click here, and now I'm going to ask my own question, right? And I can just type something like sentiment. I can do, for instance, sentiment driver, right? Oops. So remember, this interface is similar. Oh, take a look at this. If I scroll down, this is similar to what you saw in the discovery. Do you see that? You can scroll down, or you can also type your question here, or you can just select any of the starting points that it presented to you. Okay, so I'm just gonna do this one, starting point. And what it did was, it opened up the new discovery for me. And I'm going to save this. I'll show you what I'm doing right now. I'm going to save this as, save as, and I'm gonna call it, see, it's still loading. Okay, let's call it as additional visualization. Well, when you're working on assignment, you probably want to call it something more descriptive, of course. Let's go ahead and save this. Now what I could do is I could go back here. I have an option. I could go to my existing discoveries and add a tab, right? I can do that. And if I add a tab to my existing discovery, that existing display rather, that tab should be added in my storybook, right? Or I can just create, let's just create a brand new display. Quickly, let's just do new display. Let's just hit additional display. Just call it additional display. Okay, additional goldfish. Okay, and I'm gonna do the dashboard. I'm gonna hit create. And let's just do one. And let's find what we just did. We just did this one. Even though I have only one tab, I still have to expand this. Alright. And let's just call it extra. Rename. Extra. See this? And now I'm going to save this and I can add this to my storybook. So basically the idea is you presenting the top findings and your customer can ask additional questions and keep on adding to the storybook. You can keep on adding the findings, right, to the storybook. So now if I go back, well, to go back to my storybook, I can go back to the landing page and do it from there, or I can just find the storybook. It's here, it's open. If anything is open, it will show up in this list here. So now I'm going to go back to the home page. I have to go back to the storybook home page. Oops. Let's see. No, I don't want to. So, okay, export tab findings. And what I need to do, I need to go back to the edit mode because I was in view mode. In order to add something to the storybook, again, I have to be in the edit mode. So that's something to remember. So let's go, let me scroll down. And we just created, I called it extra display, something like that. And to add it here, you would just drag and drop, right? You would just drag and drop. Well, the thing is, this is what happens when you have access to everything, right? When you have access to everything, you're gonna see a lot of displays and it will be hard to find which one is yours. So to just prevent, to help you, nobody will save anything to the root of shared folder. Alright, so this is done. And I keep on going, but I'm not gonna keep you up all night, I promise. So let's just go ahead and save this. Well, right now it just saved it as new storybook. Well, let's just close this out. And if you don't like the storybook name, you can just go in here and click rename. Right? And I'm gonna call it Goldfish Storybook. So now we created the storybook, and the next piece, it's very important, is how to work in groups, how to share your files with a group. So here, this is a personal area. This is what you see. You're not gonna see other users because you're not admin. So shared, inside the shared folder, you will have a folder for the session where you are enrolled. So in your case, it's going to be this one, right? Fall 2017, and your session is 9080. And at the end of week 9, I will create a separate subfolder for each study group, and the group membership will match the group assignment in Leo. So there'll be a separate folder for your team. So for right now, just for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to assume that I am enrolled in this session 9042, not as a TA, but as a student. Let's just assume that. And I was assigned to group 1. So, to see the files that my group members put here, now remember, this is a directory tree. This is a tree, and this is showing the content. So I would have to click on the plus sign to expand the shared folder. So for you, it's going to be easier because what you will see is this folder for your session and a subfolder for your group. And you also see the folder with this dataset, that's all. You're not going to see a lot of folders. I see it because I'm an admin. So now, let's expand this. And you click here. When you do that, you will see what's in your group. Right now, there is nothing in there, but this is how you can do this. I'm in my personal area, and I want to share this dataset with my classmates. Number one, I have to close it, right? Make sure that I don't have it open, because if I have it open, I'm going to get an error message. I click here. I have to select move. Here, very important. Look, shared, and I'm going to find my folder. And in this case, for the sake of example, this is my group, right? So now I'm gonna click move. Very important. Please keep this checkbox checked because we want the file to have the same permissions as your study group settings. Because trust me, if you do something that you're not supposed to, there's a high possibility of creating an orphan file. The file that cannot be accessed to anybody. It just disappeared. The file could mysteriously disappear. So just be careful with permissions, because if everything everywhere is set to none, then nobody can see it, and you will probably need to contact me to see what I can do to get the file back. Okay, so now let's click OK. See this? I saw that message. It's a confirmation that the file was moved. And now to see that, let's assume for right now that I am another group member. And to see the file that Elena put, I would have to go back to shared. I would have to click on the plus sign to expand the folder. Then I would have to scroll down to my session, and I made an assumption that I am in this session. Then I click on the study group. I'm on data, and this is my file, right? Very important. If you want to share the discovery that you created, to share the discovery from your study group, with your study group, you must share the dataset that you used to create the discovery. This is important, you must. And it has to be exactly same copy of the file that you used. Suppose that I have another file called goldfish, and that was already in this folder. Is it gonna work? No. Internally, every copy of the file has each unique identifier. And when you build the display, internally it's associated with this copy of the file. So even if I delete the file, that's it. If I delete the data set, my discoveries will become invalid. And even if I try to load it again, if I try to load the data again, even if I use the same name, that's it. The discoveries that I created before with that specific copy of the data set cannot be restored. So whenever you delete something, keep in mind there is a dependency, right? So this is how you share. To share the discovery, you can also move it to the folder, your group folder. There is another option what you could do. See this on my personal area. Let's go to the discovery. And this is a discovery that I just created. I have several options here. I can move this to the shared folder, or suppose that Yelena wants to have a backup plan for everything. So this is what Yelena can do. She can click here, and Yelena can decide to keep a copy of this in her personal area and share another copy with the group. So see this? I have Save As. Do you see this? I have Save As option. And now I can go into Shared, and I can find my team in here, and I pretended that I was enrolled in this session. I just pretended, because the groups in your sessions are not set up yet. So I'm gonna go here, right? So this is my group 1, and I'm gonna hit Save. So what I did right now is I saved the copy. This is my copy, just in case if my classmate does something, my groupmate deletes something, I have my copy, so we can recover it later, right? So now let's go back. So right now I put visualization and I put data in a folder. For some reason, I decided that I no longer want to share it. This is what you need to do to unshare. You need to go back to the folder. Here it is. Now look, I'm expanding this. Oops. And now I'm click here on it, group 1. This is what I want to do here. This is a data set, and I'll show you the message that you'll see. And to unshare it, I have to do move, and I'm going to move it to my personal area. This is shared. I have to go down, and this is personal. I can move it to my personal, and I'm gonna hit move. There we go. Move. You're gonna get this message. What this message means is that you have a discovery in the shared folder. As soon as I remove this data set, my teammates won't be able to view the discovery. They will be getting the error message, data set not found. That's an error that they will be getting. So now let's go ahead and click OK, because this is really what I want to do. And just some housekeeping, I'm going to delete this copy, because my students will be saying, where does this come from? We did not do this. So this is a copy. I'm just going to delete it. Right? Anyway, so when you share files with your groups, you need to keep in mind the dependencies. And in order to show you what I mean more, I prepared some examples of the storybooks, and I'll show you what a problem is. So here, this is an example of the expert storybook that was put in a shared folder, but the problem is the person who put it only put the storybook file itself. There is no data, and there are no displays that were used to build the storybook. So now I'm going to try to preview the storybook. So somehow I see that I have 2 top findings, but it shows that I have 0 data sets. Why do you think is that? It's because somebody who moved this data set to the shared area, maybe my teammate, didn't put the data set in there, right? So when I click here, no data available, right? So that tells me something wrong. And also when I click on expert top finding, here it is. When I click on my top findings, I'm going to see the display cannot be found. Well, the reason is I never put the displays into the shared folder, right? Well, it recognizes that I have 2 pages, but it does not recognize anything on that page. So let's close this. Oops. We know that something was wrong, right? We know that something was wrong. Now let's look at another example. So here we're making some progress. We put the displays. There are 3 displays, and it's a storybook about the Oreo cookies that was created last semester. Uh, so I put 3 displays here and the storybook. I'm trying to click here on the storybook, and now you're going to see another error. Well, it finds that I have the 3 top findings, and it finds that I have 1 data set, right? So now it's finding it, but let's take a look at the problem. I'm opening up the display, and it's finding that I have the display, but it's just empty. See this? I get this error. We cannot access the data. And there are several reasons why it's happening. Reason number 1, I don't have access to data. Whoever shared the display forgot to put the data set to the shared area or remove from shared area. Reason number 2, this is worst. Somebody deleted the data set that was used to build this. If in the second case, if the data set was deleted, that's it. There is no way I know of to recover it easily. Well, you can click here. Oh, yeah, you could. You can click on replace. You could click on replace and then load a different data. Well, you could do that. But in general, let's just keep in mind. Keep in mind, if you deleted the data that was used to build the display, that's it. That's it. There is nothing you can do. There is no recycle bin. The only thing you can do is to start over, right? All right, and see here, it says no data is available. So I showed you what not to do, but now I have to show you the right way to do. So this is a third example here. This example, this has all files. This one will work. This is about the sprite. And I click here, this is a storybook. And now I'm not going to have any problems. It's because I put the data set and I put all the displays. So I click here and it's going to work as I expect it to work. It's because I put the data set and I put all of my displays in a shared folder. So basically to create this, I logged in as a different user. That's how I did this. To show you the demo, I created it as a different user. So I pretended to be another group member, so to speak, right? So this is very important. Sometimes it is highly possible that the storybook works for you, but it does not work for your classmates. So your group member, when it happens, it's probably because you may have forgotten to move the data to the shared area. The storybook may still work for you if the data is in your personal area, because you have access to your personal area, right? But your teammate does not have access. So in other words, if I log in as a user who created that storybook that I just showed you that was not working, right, I will be able to run the storybook. It will work without any problems. But if I'm logged in the way I'm logged in now, I won't have access to it. I won't. I'm having problems, right? The files are missing because I don't have access to another person's personal area. So that's something to keep in mind, right? It's possible something working for you but not working for your classmates, because your classmates has no access to your personal area. Something else to keep in mind, sharing files is an excellent capability of Watson Analytics. However, only one person may work on a file at the same time. 2 people cannot edit the same file at the same time, or cannot even have it open. So right now, if I have something open, right, it does not matter. Even if I'm logged out, I still have it open. My groupmate cannot edit the file because I still have it open. See, it does not matter if I'm logged out. I have to make sure that before I log out, I close every single file. We just want to make sure that the changes we make are not lost. Something else very important. I showed you that you can make a copy of the data set, right? You could make a copy of the data set. You can make a copy of the discoveries. You can save a copy to the shared area. You can make a copy of the display, but you cannot make a copy of the storybook. I checked with IBM. You cannot. There is no option to save it as a copy. So when you work as a group, you should be very careful. When you're making changes, you want to make sure that you're not overwriting, not deleting each other's work, so to speak. Well, this is a sad story, but it happened. It happened. Before the work was due, one team member accidentally deleted something. Well, it's sad, but it happens. But since you really cannot make a backup of the storybook, at least try to take the screenshots. At least, so that way it's easier to recover. Alright? And remember this, anybody who saves any work saved on the root of the shared area will be deleted. And in the slides, I have an example of what will be deleted, right? Now let's go back to personal area, and I promised to show you something interesting. So up till now, we were doing the work with a single data set, single file. What if I have two files? In one of my files, I have the customer information perhaps, and in the other file I could have the order information. Oh, here it is. Product, I've got the product, and I've got the sales, and I've got the customer, right? So sales table, sales data set will track which customer purchased which product. But the problem is it will have the customer ID. It will not have the customer name. I could take the customer ID and then look it up, the customer name, but I'll show you the more efficient way to do that. So let me hit on refine. I open the sales data, right? We could do the join. Now, at this moment, you can only join two data sets. You cannot do more than two. Uh, uh, well, we cannot do more than two, and we cannot do Twitter data. Twitter data cannot be part of the join. Okay, looks like, yep, this is beyond our control. So when we get this error, you just click out and try again. You just click out and try again. Okay, so let's just see. Let's try to open sales again. Oops, let me click here and I'll go refine. Let's try again. And I think, oh, the problem is it's because I may have had it open in another account. It's highly possible. So anyway, let's close it. I have a backup plan. Let's pick another data set. But I just showed you what will happen if you have a file open, if you were logged in on another PC perhaps, and if you had the file open, it could cause a problem. So whenever you're done working, you always want to close any file that you had open, right? Oh, here it is. So there is order detail. This table, this data, I downloaded it from the database. So, oops, I don't want to do this. I want to do the refine, right? So here, the idea is I have the sales information and my product information is stored separately. The summary information is stored separately. So I'm gonna go to refine, and this will open this. Something is going on. All right, I'm going to show you in slides. I'll show you the slides. Once in a while, Watson Analytics could be running some patches, and a certain functionality could be temporarily unavailable. So let me go ahead. Let me find it in the slides. Okay, I'll find it in the slides here. So here is So I have two data sets that I mentioned before. I have my customer data, and this is my order data, and this is my customer data. My order information has a customer ID, and here in a separate table I have customer name, first name, last name, right? One way to get the information about the customer would be to take the customer ID and then look it up in a customer data, but that's kind of like laborious, right? I to solve this problem, I can just go ahead and I can join it. I can define the join. So that will turn this into a single spreadsheet. That will turn it into a single spreadsheet with this field in common. It's gonna look like this. So it took two data sets and found the common value and joined on the common value. I may actually have one of them that was done. Let me open the one that was done and let's see if that opens. But if you ever run into an issue that I just did, then you would probably want to restart the browser. But let's see if this does it. I don't want to do the discovery. I need to click on refine. But the whole idea of the join is that sometimes you have data stored in two spreadsheets. It could be, one reason could be that the name is subject to change. So that way you change it only at one place, right? So that could be the possible reason. But in your analysis, sometimes you want to see the customer name, right? So see this, it's telling me something went wrong. My other option is to go in and to try a different browser and to try, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, and I was logged in before. See this? This could be part of the problem. It's because I was logged in here. But anyways, so let's go back here and let's find this data set. So, well, sometimes when we're working with a cloud application, we need to be a little bit patient. So here is my sales. Let's see if this cooperates. Oh, now I don't want to do the discovery. I should have clicked on the refine. Well, it's alright. Take a look at that. So now I'm gonna go scroll down and I'll find it. This one. So take a look at this. Click on the ellipsis and click on refine. So this is order details. Let's see if it works. It should. I open the order details and okay, there we go. So here, this is a detail, right? And I have the order number and I have a bunch of details about the order. Now what I'll do is I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to add the summary data set. It's in my personal area and it's going to be called order summary. There we go, right? Here it is, order summary, and I'm gonna click OK. So now I have two, right? It's supposed to show me two. Okay. I'm supposed to see two, order details and order summary. Did I click on add? I should have clicked on OK. Personal. Okay. I'm wondering if they might be doing some updates right now on this functionality. Well, okay. Order summary. See this? I have to select this and click OK. Okay. So basically, you have order details and you have order summary. Then what you'll need to do is you have to click on this. When you click on this button, it will give you the set of columns. It will give you, you will see the set of fields in one uh, data set and a set of fields in another. You would need to use your mouse to drag and drop. So I'll need to drag from, perhaps in this example, I drag from customer ID on the first data set onto customer ID in the second data set. So this is a join field. And there are several types of join. In this case, I chose to keep only the data. I want to keep only the data that appears in both tables. So for example, if I have a customer that does not have an order, that customer won't be returned. So that's called an inner join, right? You can also do the outer join. You want to list the customer anyway, even if that customer does not have any orders. There are different types of join. Just keep that in mind. Oh, here it is. See this? This cooperated, so you get to see two examples today. So this is the first one, and this is my second one. So the join, I click here, and what you have to do is you have to find the field in common, and I bet it's going to be order number. Watch. I click on the error, and I drag and drop. There we go. So it should show me the error. Order number. Oops. Here it is. So this is a join field. Now I can just minimize this, and a different color code is used for each data set, right? And then if you look at the order number in pink and the order number in green, the values in the same row should match. The values in the same row should match. It's because that's a field that I used for the join, right? I'm joining on the order number. So order number here should match the order number in pink here. Yeah. Yeah, so you keep on, if you scroll that way, yeah. You want to make sure that the order number, that order number matches this order number. That's how it's joined. And then you want to save it under the different name. You want to save it under different name. You just click here and then select Save As, right? But to save us time, instead, let's review what we covered and fill in the gaps what we did not cover. All right. So basically today we went over loading the Twitter data, and I may or may not have showed you, well, I have showed you that when you click on the ellipses, it gives you a menu. This is what you can do. You can refine, replace, rename the data set, and you can move it. Well, move is helpful when you share it with your team, or when you create a set of subfolders, perhaps. You want to organize your data based on the assignment or based on a certain step in the assignment. And delete. Be careful with the delete. In the next few slides, and you have a copy of the slides, I just put a summary for you of what you can do, how you can add different groups, you can add hierarchies if you don't see the hierarchy in there and you like to use. You can add the calculations, you can change the properties, you can see the data quality scores. The same operations that you have been doing, almost the same operations can be done with Twitter data. One thing that cannot be done is that you cannot download the data set to your desktop. You cannot do that for Twitter data, and you cannot use the Twitter data in joins. Right? So I showed you how to do the drill down, right? And here you're looking at the counts by the country, by the state, and by the city, right? Here is basically showing you different properties of the plot. At the bottom, those are the data slots, and I'll label it for you. You have the horizontal axis variable. Multiplier, it means that I can have a separate plot for value. So here I have a separate plot for female and male, and I'm using the post type as a color code. Right? So this is what basically it's doing, and I'm just showing you the meaning of each slot here, and you'll have it. This one is showing you two variations of the pie chart. I put it here on the slides because some of your schoolmates asked me specific questions and they wanted to see more examples of the visualization varieties that can be done. So when you click on the format, some visualizations you can change the shape. For instance, the pie chart can be done as a donut instead of actual pie chart, right? So just keep in mind, some plots have different variants. So this is a heat map visualization, and you can explore it at your leisure, right? And you can do the trend analysis. This basically gives you some ideas of what you can do for your assignment with the Twitter data. So you can look at the maps, you can look at the breakdown for sentiment, for gender, you can do the trend analysis, you can do the word clouds, right? If you're looking at the hashtags, then you can do the relationships among the terms. And in this case, I have the sentiment and I have the term. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here. And the line width is the number of tweets. Okay. Then you can do the decision tree. Well, keep in mind the decision tree might not work all the time. It depends on search criteria that you entered. Well, the model that works well in one situation might not always work well for another situation. Think of it this way, right? This is example of the summary tables. We did a table example, but I'm gonna leave you the grid example as a homework for you to explore. So basically, in a table, I'm looking one variable, right? Just the sentiment. And in the grid, I'm going by the sentiment. Each row is a sentiment, and each column is a gender, right? And then I can also look at the counts, the average tweet count per country, perhaps, right? So this is a breakdown. It shows you how to create a table. And you have the copy of the slides, but you probably want to look at what I'm doing here and then try it with your data. And this is a grid. So I'm leaving you as a homework to try this, right? And you can just adjust the formatting here. Now, what I did here, I put the summary for you. This is the differences and similarities between dashboard and infographics. Dashboard has more than one tab, infographic just one. And in the dashboard, you can define the filter on a subset of visualizations, right? Filter per tab or filter for all visualization. But if it's an infographic, you have to have a one filter for all visualizations. You can create, when you define the filter, it will apply to all visualizations. You may apply filter for one visualization only just by clicking on it and going in the focus mode, but you cannot apply the filter, a single filter to the subset of visualizations, right? Both are interactive, and you may use the predefined layouts, and you may use the existing discoveries and create the new discovery, and you may use both of them in a storybook, right? Here I just put a summary of steps to create an infographic, and you will have this, right? So here I'm just doing an explanation on what the focus mode is and etc. Same thing here. This is in a view mode, so you can see what's available, what's not. And here I just put the steps how to create a storybook. So you will have this later. Here I just explained to you how to add the This is also called the annotation, explanation. You want to explain the user what your page shows, right? And this is a storybook in a view mode that we went over, right? And basically the view mode is you're using it as an end user, you cannot make changes. And the edit mode is when you can make changes. So I showed you how to preview the data that's used to feed the storybook, right? And if you look at the if you look at the landing page right here, these are the properties, not properties, sorry, the menu. If I click here, I see the menu. I can rename, move, and delete. But remember, there is no recycle bin, so if you delete it, it will be gone forever. And now I did not show you the Analytics Exchange page. That page has Storybook templates. You're not going to turn it in for grading, of course, but what you will do is it's always helpful to look at some examples. So you want this one, Analytics Exchange. Then you can scroll down and you're going to pick the storybook that you want to look at. For instance, I can look at the customer service, and when I click here, now make sure it's free, most of them are, and I'm gonna hit import. And what that will do, well, import again, that will add a copy of the storybook to my personal area. In addition to adding the storybook, it will add the data set, and it will also add the displays that were used to build this storybook. So this may take a couple minutes. This may take a couple minutes, depending on your connection speed. But since I am also doing a presentation, right, it's taking bandwidth, so that's the reason it could be a tad slower. But while it's loading, I can show you that here are the links. There are two storybooks by IBM Maxima, and these are the videos on YouTube. There are videos that explain what's in these two sample storybooks. So if you're interested, it might be interesting to watch those. Those are good examples. Okay, so this is done. I'm gonna click close. And the storybook is now open in the view mode. But click here. If you click here, it shows that I have 3 tab findings and 1 data set. 3 tab findings. So when I go back to my landing page, I should see the folder called imported. And inside imported folder, I will see my storybook that I just imported. And also, I will see a separate subfolder with the displays. These are the displays for that storybook. And also, if I click on the data, that's a data set. Alright? So I showed you that. And here I'm adding an explanation of what personal and shared area is. And remember, there are different types of permission. None. For instance, you have no permissions to see the last semester. Whatever student did in the last semester, you have no permission. View only, you have a view only permission for the datasets folder, right? You can view it, but you cannot make changes. View and edit is the permission for your folder to the team. You will be able to upload your files, right? You will be able to view your teammates' files, but you will not be able to allow your classmates to see your work. Full control, it's me. I'm creating a folder for your group. I'm setting the permissions for your folder, right? I may open your work and I may edit your work. I'm not going to do that, of course, but the permissions allow editing the work in your shared folder. Okay? So, and this is just a summary of how you access the shared folder. I need to have it in writing, so that way you have it in the recording and also written down, right? So whenever you move the file to the shared area, you need to make sure that the file is closed. This is very important, right? So here I just showing you the location, and these are the steps, and this is the error message. Oh no, that's not an error message, that's a confirmation message that you will get. It will prompt you, right? It says unsharing the file. Do you remember I received the message? Before, it's because I was trying to remove the data set from the shared area, but there was a visualization for that data set. This is important rule, and I put an example of the file that is due for deletion. This will be deleted because it's in the root of the shared folder. Sometimes I need to give you an example of what not to do, right? Okay, so this is an error that you will get. It's because of the data dependencies. So if the data set that you used to build the discovery is no longer shared with you or deleted, you're going to get this error, right? And here I just put a picture of the dependencies. So you have data set, and then the discovery depends on data set. The displays depend on the discovery, and then the storybook depends on everything. So if a link, if something in this chain disappears, that's it, right? Then I went over, I showed you some examples of the storybooks that were not working because some files were not shared. Right, so we went through these examples. Then I showed you the join, right? And this part I have not showed you yet. These are the web pages that you'll find useful on how to upload Twitter data, and there are also some good examples here on expert storybooks and some documentation. I would just recommend that you guys look at the documentation, and it will help you a lot. Alright, so I guess I've been speaking for more than an hour and a half, and let's see if we have questions, because if we don't, then Yelena starts asking questions. Let's look at the chat. No questions in the chat. Everybody was quiet today. Questions? And I will start asking questions, right? So what data source did we use today? How did we obtain the data today? If you're asked to do the Twitter data, do you know what you need to do for the assignment, right? And your assignment is to create a storybook. You know how to start, right? You have to start by what? Getting your data, building your models. Alright, we don't start from the storybook right away. Remember the workflow. Something else very important. As soon as you are assigned to the groups in Leo, I'll be notified to put you to create the groups in Watson Analytics. When you're notified that the groups are done, I want you to go to Watson Analytics and check to make sure that you're able to see your group. If not, let me know. It's very easy to fix, very easy. But we need to do that before you know what I'm saying. We don't want to we don't want you to find out that you have no access the night before the work is due. We don't want this to happen. So just be proactive and check your access as soon as you're notified that the folders have been created. Most of the time I'm fast to respond, and it's very easy fix, but please be proactive and check. Alright? Anything else? Steve, is there anything that I didn't say?
No, I think you've got a very thorough presentation there, and as always, I will send the link to the recording to the professors, and you send them the slides, so they'll have both. But I think this should stand them in good stead to get through this portion of the course. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll stop the recording.